Dear students, my name is Alnerine Greef and I'm happy to act as coordinating lecturer for assignment 2 of Com4808. This assignment deals with one of my personal favorite fields of organizational communications, the field of public relations. Now, much has been said about public relations and its place within the new millennium. If you follow PR firms on social media, you will see that they continually try to stake their claim within the contemporary business environment. This assignment touches on some of this. It's about traditional and online public relations, and we specifically look at it in the context in terms of theories, functions, and campaigns. Good. Let's get started by looking at the contextualization for this assignment so that we can orientate ourselves. As we say in Tutorial Letter 101, the context in which public relations is practiced has changed considerably with the advent of social media. Social media has changed the way that communication is produced, displayed, and sorted. The concept of online public relations has become prominent as new innovations, online innovations, and information technologies have become the means by which organizations disseminate public relations information. Having said this, social media has not only changed the way that we disseminate organizational information, but also the understanding and categorization of that information. The author Chroniques, for example, shows how organizational information has changed in the social media epoch to include not only owned and paid media, as in the past, but also earned media. Public relations practitioners have to, as in the past, still disseminate and integrate messages via owned media, for example, press releases and websites, and paid media, for example, sponsored tweets, boosted and paid advertising via Facebook, and then also have to monitor and, if possible, capitalize on earned media such as unsponsored reviews, user blogs, retweets or reports, sharing, comments, social tagging, etc. Now, some scholars allege that earned media carries more weight with consumers because it seemed to be a more objective or a true version of organizational information. When considering this alongside Chroniques' public relations models, we see how the pendulum has swung from one extreme to another. Initially, information and communication were one-way directed and were seen to be solely in the hands of an organization. You can see, for example, the press agency model, the publicity model, and the public information model here. This evolved into a two-way communication model and an understanding of the influence of stakeholders in the communication process. Thus, our understanding changed from the two-way asymmetrical model, where there is two-way communication but a balance still favors the organization, to a two-way symmetrical model, where there's more of a balance between the communicative influence of the organization and the stakeholder. In the social media epoch, however, it could be said that we are moving back to a two-way asymmetrical model, but this time the balance favors stakeholders or users, not the organization. Obviously, because they are talking on social media, and it depends whether or not they're talking more and whether or not their opinions are held in higher regard than the communication from the organization. So, this obviously presents a challenge to public relations practitioners. Whereas public relations used to be all about planned communication messages as the public face of the organization, it now has to handle and contend with more forms of uncontrolled communication. You will agree with me, of course, that communication that is user-generated is not controlled by the organization, and that, of course, is risky. Traditional public relations campaign planning models are often very systematic and linear in their steps or phases. The question is, do these models allow for the implications that social media and the digital epoch has heralded? In this assignment, you will have to answer to this question. So let's break it all down and see what exactly you will have to focus on in this assignment. Firstly, you will have to discuss the nature of traditional public relations and offer a comprehensive definition. Now, when you discuss the nature of public relations, no matter what definition you use, you will have to point out some of the characteristics and features of public relations. You will have to be as exhaustive and comprehensive as possible. Now, public relations can be explained as management of perceptions and strategic relationships between an organization and its internal and external stakeholders. It can further be described as a dynamic process in that the process is one of continuous and constant changes and adjustments in order to maintain old relationships and build new ones. Also, public relations is analytical because there's a need to determine and analyze situations and factors that affect the organization. Planning is also another characteristic of public relations, which ensures that goals and priorities are set according to situations and factors affecting the organization as a whole. You will be credited in your assignment when you provide clear and applicable discussions on the nature of public relations. Very importantly, however, you will have to offer a motivation as to why you selected your specific definition and how it complies with the most recent trends in public relations. The trends that you refer to would have to touch on the epoch of social media and how that impacts on the practice of public relations. Secondly, you will have to discuss the concepts of owned, paid, and earned media, situating your discussions in the context of public relations. Very simplistically, the following table offers an overview of these. The source is Brandwatch, but you will have to offer a few academic sources as the basis of your discussion. Paid media is the simplest to understand of these three channels, and it consists of any marketing that organizations actually pay for. In other words, any PR that is paid for. Traditionally, this would include TV adverts, radio spots, and print advertising, for example. Owned media, on the other hand, consists of the content organizations create and publish on a channel that they own. This includes their website and blog, any e-books or white papers that they might publish, and the content that they distribute on their social media channels. Earned media consists of all the content and conversation around an organization's brand or product that has been created by somebody else and published somewhere other than the organization's owned channels. It is gained as a result of the organization's efforts in paid and owned media, and you can think of it as an amplification of an organization's activity as news sites and social media users pick up on the campaigns and help spread the word. Earned media can include press coverage, social media mentions, shares and retweets, product and company reviews, etc. You will have to discuss all three, but in relation to public relations specifically, and not any other field like advertising. It should be clear from your discussion how PR activities would feature into these. Okay, then thirdly, you have to critically discuss Chroniques public relations models and indicate the ways in which these models should be adapted to consider the aspects inherent to the current public relations context. The following infographic from Ohio State University summarizes some of the main points of these models succinctly. Again, you will have to offer an integrated list of sources when you discuss these. Once done, you will have to indicate the ways in which these models should be adapted to consider the aspects inherent in the current public relations context. For this, please consider what we spoke about earlier, about where the balance of communicative power lies, mostly with the organization or mostly with the stakeholders. Also consider what this means for public relations, for example, by considering the controlled or uncontrolled nature of the communication. In the fourth and last instance, you will have to discuss at least one public relations campaign planning model and explain why you chose this model. Obviously, there are various models which can be used, and most of them include basic steps, namely defining the problem, planning them and programming, taking action, and communicating and evaluating the campaign. You should not only discuss this campaign model theoretically, but you should interpret and apply the theory as well. A big part of your interpretations and applications is discussing the ways in which this specific model that you chose relates to the current public relations context and how it currently handles or would be able to handle owned, paid, and earned media. Obviously, this applied discussion should still need to be substantiated by theoretical discussions. We urge you to back up your discussions with references and motivations for your choices. Of course, not all campaigns will be able to accommodate the earned, paid, etc. channels. It's up to you to then discuss the ways in which it could do that by making some adjustments. You should showcase your understanding and your ability to apply the theory that you discuss. You should also have some fun in this part of the assignment while staying close to the theory in its application. Overall, it's very important that you remember two things for this assignment. Firstly, to always motivate your choices. This is not only a good idea in this assignment, but in all academic work. Motivation is a rule of thumb because it speaks to the validity and reliability of the research that you did, be that empirical or conceptual. We need to know how you made your decisions in order for us to judge whether it was a good choice to make or not. Secondly, it's obvious from this presentation that there are various things that all need to work together in this assignment. A very important point that you need to heed is cohesion in your writing. Remember, you must forward a coherent and meaningful, not to mention academic, line of reasoning in your assignment, and you cannot do that if your writing is not coherent. The discussion of elements or aspects in your assignment needs to logically flow over to the discussion of the next. Very importantly, your different sections should not function independently, but should be part of the same or bigger discussion that answers the aspect put to you in this assignment theme. You must make sure that the different headings and sections, subheadings in your assignment are linked to one another, and that it's clear how all of these together contribute to the argument line followed in your assignment. Okay, so all that's left for me to do is to wish you all the best in this assignment and invite you once again to contact us if you have any specific questions. Happy reading and happy writing.